Well, now that we know a little bit more about how Rise of Iron is going to work, I can finally make a Rise of Iron preparation guide. Now, I want to preface this video by saying you don't need to do any of this at all, especially if you've been an active player. If you did nothing in this video, you would still be totally fine for Rise of Iron, regardless of where you are now. But if you really want to min-max yourself, perhaps you want to hit the raid as soon as it launches or something like that, here's some advice. First, dependent on how often you play now, manage your legendary marks. If you're still a pretty active player, then start buying planetary materials. The last thing you're going to want is to run out of planetary materials pretty much ever. So if you're just sitting capped at 200 legendary marks and you still play pretty often, spend some now, buy some materials, and then max out later. Store up some bounties that give legendary marks. 2 Trials of Osiris bounties and some Iron Banner bounties give legendary marks. A lot of them. Hang on to those bounties so that you can buy a couple of items from vendors if you so choose, just in case a vendor item ends up being really good. The light cap is 385 as soon as Rise of Iron launches, which means the raid might be around 365, 370 light to get in, which means vendor gear might be around 360. Those are just guesses, but there's a chance you'll want to scoop up a piece of vendor gear to maybe fill out that last slot or get a new weapon. Make sure to complete the weekly Crucible meta bounty, the one that gets you the Nightfall rewards, ahead of time if you don't think you're going to want to PvP during the week. This way you can turn it in later in the week as you've leveled up and can possibly get a new free piece of armor or weapon or maybe a new exotic. Otherwise, complete bounties to fill up all of your bounty slots for easy leveling of new gear early on if you decide to use new stuff. Next up, engrams. It is unlikely that your current Taken King legendary and exotic engrams will turn into Rise of Iron items if you crack them open when Rise of Iron launches. Pretty unlikely. It didn't happen in the Dark Below, it didn't happen from Dark Below to House of Wolves, it didn't happen from House of Wolves to Taken King. It did happen with the April update, but the April update wasn't an expansion or an update close to what we're getting with Rise of Iron. However, these engrams are worth a lot in Cryptarch faction rep, especially exotics. So if you want, you should hang on to those engrams so that you can turn them in at Rise of Iron and get Rise of Iron Cryptarch packages, which will contain Rise of Iron engrams to give you higher light items. Speaking of which, next up is faction edging. This works the same way as it always has. You get your factions super close to leveling. This way when Rise of Iron hits, you can turn in some materials or some ammo packs to get another level and get a fresh Rise of Iron package. Keep in mind that it has been reported that infusion is not changing in any way. So, perhaps if you hold off until you're a higher light level to go level up or get the package, you will get a higher light item. Factions to edge include the Vanguard, Crucible, the Gunsmith, your current faction of Future War Cult, New Monarchy, or Dead Orbit, and if you really want more, the Queen and Eris. Related to factions is Strange Coin Saving. Buy Heavy Ammo Synth from Xur if you can to stock up on ways to get more reputation, but make sure you have Strange Coins to actually buy anything new from Xur. If you're an active player, getting 50 to 100 Strange Coins by the time Rise of Iron launches shouldn't be too big of a deal, but if you have more than that, obviously that's good. Otherwise, start saving Motes of Light, planetary materials, armor materials, weapon parts, exotic shards especially, maybe even some glimmer generating materials if you don't have any. Don't worry too much about upgrading current level stuff. If you have an exotic that's sitting at 334, it's probably okay to leave it there. The closer we get to the expansion, the less you need to upgrade your items. And something like exotic shards don't come by terribly often. Next, clean up your vault. Your vault is probably filled with tons and tons of armor and weapons that you probably don't use anymore or have never used ever. Unless you're holding on to some nostalgia weapons or stuff that is really special to you, you can probably start getting rid of stuff. However, if you wanted to wait until Rise of Iron to dismantle legendary items for legendary marks, that is totally acceptable. If you plan on playing Rise of Iron at all, you might as well pre-order for bonus free stuff. There aren't many or any expectations of Rise of Iron decreasing the quality of Destiny, so if you're an active player and you like the game and you still play the game, it's a pretty safe bet that you're going to enjoy Rise of Iron. Finally, just take a break. With new content on the horizon, the last thing you want to do is burn yourself out on the game right now. Don't force yourself to play. Enjoy some other games, enjoy the rest of your summer, and then when Rise of Iron hits, go crazy. As for launch day, stock up on whatever goodies you want. Try not to go too crazy with the energy drinks. Get some water in your system. It's more healthy than energy drinks and all that junk. So, yeah. Like I said earlier, if you do absolutely none of this, that is 100% totally fine. You do not need to prepare nearly as much for Rise of Iron because of all of the improvements in the game compared to last year. Full infusion, good drop rates, keeping our gear, light level doesn't increase as much. So, yeah, don't worry about it too much. That's going to do it for me, though. If you enjoyed the video, a positive rating would be pretty cool. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.